Good morning once again to the entire Brokers Playbook Nation. This is Simeon Papailias along with my co-host, Miss Laura Martin. We are so pleased to have on this morning the CEO of the biggest real estate board in North America. Mr. John DiMichele will be joining us this morning to have a discussion that affects all of us. He'll be going over what TRREB is doing to help us become better agents and brokers, to become more efficient, and to talk about all the technology that they have invested in and will be rolling out in the near future. Laura Martin, good morning. John DiMichele, good morning. Welcome to Brokers Playbook. I'm so excited to have you here.
Good morning, and thank you for having me here. I really appreciate it, and nice to see you both, and looking forward to this.
Same. I'm going to jump right into it, John. So curious.
No mercy, Laura.
Yeah, no kidding.
Okay, here's the deal. So what I understand is that you are going to push everyone in TRREB into Web 3.0, into and out of the Stone Age, into the future of AI search and, leveraging all this amazing vision technology, product technology, voice recognition software that we have. So first I want to know, let's start from the jump. Have you always been like a visionary and a futurist in terms of technology? Because it's so rare to see that in the real estate industry.
Well, that's a really nice thing to say. I really appreciate that context. I don't know if I've always been. First of all, I'm flattered that you even refer to me like that. But I'm going to go back a little further so you understand. I was at Waterloo. I was in kinesiology. I took a bunch of computer courses, and I realized one thing that's definite: I'm never going to be a programmer. This is not what I want to do. Okay, and so, but I love the concept of learning about the network and how that worked. Like, imagine all the information that goes across those wires. We're talking magic, right? It was a mystery to me. It was magic. It's like watching a magic act, and I wanted to see how they did.
It's still a mystery to all of us, John.
Yeah, it is.
I'm guessing that was like mid.
Sorry?
Was that like the mid 90s at Waterloo, or?
No, it was before that. I graduated in the 80s, and I remember thinking to myself, this is kind of really interesting. And I saw the future. I mean, Waterloo had the biggest computer on the planet, the math computer building, everything that was in there actually now I think fits in our phone. Right? Think about it. So just the advances there and knowing that the tools existed fascinated me. So I literally bought a laptop when they first were made available. It was a suitcase, but it was a laptop. And I used, someone said that I could use the old TTY machines to get information when I started in real estate, which was in the 90s, and use it to print off stuff, but just by using a modem. And I thought, is this going to work? So sure enough, it worked. I bought a TTY machine and I could get this all done. So I could see how technology was freeing me up. And so but even before that, I was fortunate to work at a company, before I started in real estate, where they actually had a mainframe computer, the Prime 1, and they were using it, and it was one of the most powerful computers on the planet. And I started fooling around with the computer, and it was a Mac, and I was doing all these things that my friends were saying, "What are you doing?" They had no idea what I was doing, and I was creating these cool things, and then my boss took me and put me in a room with these two guys that were creating tools. One guy always wore jeans and a t-shirt. The other guy wore a suit, and they were creating computer tools. And so I asked them, what do you guys, and reading these stacks of industry journals every day. And I said, what are you guys doing? He goes, well, we're going to build tools. And I said, well, what do you mean tools? I had no idea. And he goes, well, you only build a hammer once, right? Everybody will replicate it and customize it, but you build a hammer once. And then I was hooked. I was literally hooked in technology. I started reading everything I could and learning about it on my own. Really took a bunch of courses, don't get me wrong, but still wanted to try to learn it. And then I learned that anything's possible. Pretty much anything's possible. And when I got out of Waterloo and I went through all this experience, and I decided I want to get into real estate, I realized that this is an under technology served industry. And in my brokerage, I dropped Cat5 cables to the desks when I was the broker, and said, you guys all have to get laptops. And that was, I think, the first office that ever did that, that I was involved with anyway. There was one fellow that worked with me who had done it as well. And I thought, this is exciting. And the rest is history as far as I'm concerned. A little bit more on that. I've designed systems since I've been at TRREB. Created pretty cool technology, very simple, elegant solutions to things, because if you can think it, you can do it.
Yep.
And I remember people saying, yeah, we can do this. And I thought, wow, that's magic.
What's a couple of examples, John, of things that you implemented at TRREB that made an impact?
Well, one of the things was that right out of the gates, we had, I don't want to get too technical. Let's just say it this way. So the system that was running the new Stratus, my job when I first got here is on the board of directors at TRREB too. So I was actually a practitioner on the board at TRREB, and my job was to bring in the new system, which is today's Stratus. And even at that get-go, we went through an exercise. We chose Stratus. The other groups failed in trying to deliver to us because they couldn't do it. But it just seemed bizarre to me that we had such a powerful system here, and yet we couldn't manage the traffic flow. We couldn't manage it. It turned out, in my mind, I believe it was because we had these clear passwords. You could just use your user ID and your password. You get into the system and do whatever you want. And I suspected that we had about almost 18,000 members, but really, right now we have 72,000 users, but so let's say 18,000 members. But I suspect that we had over 200,000 users because people were giving out their passwords freely.
That is 100 daughter of two estate agents.
Yeah, right.
Days. I was using it all the time.
Well, I was tracking one particular individual who was signing on about 1,900 times a month. As soon as we implemented the authenticator, it went down to like 80.
Oh,
42.
Right. So yeah, but so I actually convinced the service provider to, the first thing technical thing that I had to convince people of was we had to separate the web service from the database service. You want to protect the database, you have to do some pretty rudimentary things. So that's kind of what started. We had issues with NIC cards, and I'm not going to go there, but some technical things.
It's a very cool story because it shows you've been with TRREB for so long, you've seen TRREB and you've influenced TRREB to evolve. And I think that's why you have such a huge support behind you, where people believe in your vision. And that's why I frankly am so interested in having this conversation today, because we're about to embark on a big change. Laura called it Web 3.0, and it's factually going to be part of that Web 3.0, because as this conversation will evolve today, we're going to expose the membership of TRREB, which is significant in the Broker's Playbook audience, to NFTs, to blockchain. How do those things work in? People hear those words and they still have no idea. It's like a foreign language to them. So we have to get with the times. John, what is Realm? How do you see it rolling out?
Realm is really a response to what we've needed for a long time. It is a future-facing MLS system. The idea is to embrace the technology. You have to be able to pay for it because there is so much of it available. But in order to give members the tools so that they can provide services to the consumers in a manner in which our members deserve, like you said, we're the largest board in North America. We're the largest board in the world. And we get people from around the world coming to see us. Why are we not leading? We are leading in thought, we are leading in influence, but we need to be the leaders in technology. And so in 2017, Simeon, we issued this, well, the concept came to me. I went to the board and I said, look, I see this as the future, and they got right behind it. We issued the RFP in 2019. It asks for a lot in that RFP. What I learned was that organizations had taken that RFP in the United States and put it up on screens, and they were dissecting what we were doing, saying, oh my goodness. I get a call from a guy saying that he's at a conference and he hears from the stage some guy talking about technology and saying MLS, and saying to the audience, if you've not seen John DiMichele's RFP or vision, you must. And I thought, wow, this is flattering. This is a moment, an inflection point. Sorry, Laura.
Sorry, what does RFP stand for?
Request for proposals.
Okay.
So what Realm is designed to do is bring in everything at your fingertips, and it'll take time to get it there. But right now, partnering with TRREB and AMP, which is really a Stratus subsidiary, and TRREB, we're partners in the joint venture to bring this forward. Before, we were just buying services. Now we're part of that ownership platform. The reason we're doing that is so that we have a say, we have a control mechanism, and the benefits go to members. When we buy services, these organizations, their valuation goes up, they make money. Right. Then they sell it off to some organization that's a monolith, and we don't get any benefit. We're end up talking to a monolith that's really not even interested in talking to us because they're in the business of business.
That's right.
Not a service provider anymore.
Yeah.
We need to be able to maintain control of our destiny in order to provide the services to the 72,000 users that are helping people buy and sell homes and achieve their dreams. So if anything has been clear to me, one thing is, during the pandemic, we realized how important the real estate industry is and what these members do, what our members actually do to keep the economy going and people living their lives in a meaningful way and achieving their goals. So really interesting how every level of government has looked me in the eye and said, you're a true economic engine. And so we saw that during the pandemic, and it's clear. So what we're trying to do is bring everything technically in a metered way. We're not going to just overwhelm people, but really what Realm is collaborate right within the system, because that's what consumers want. Consumers want to be able to work with you. They're your partner. You are partners. You're their trusted advisor. You're their trusted confidant, and they can do some of the work on their own because they want to. They're doing it anyway. So within the system, you get to work with them. They are happier. You're happier. But the system itself is going to have everything at your fingertips. So right now, you can expect to see some pretty exciting features, really dynamic statistical information. Right at the screen, you'll be able to drill right down to and on the report, you'll have the TerraNet GeoWarehouse report right within the listing feature. You can see that feature sheet. You can see all that information at your fingertips, but more. What we're working on are things like AI. So that if you wanted to just see, just show me the kitchens that are white, or show me a house that looks like this from the road. It'll bring you all of those, because it's going to use photography, the pictures, to actually look at that. In the future, we'll be using photos to add data, not take data and then add the photos. So
John,
these are the things.
I am heavily involved in prop tech right now, and photogrammetry is something that is absolutely massive for the real estate and prop tech industry. So basically, there are literally drones flying over every single major urban market as we speak, and that data that is being captured by these special choppers with the special equipment is literally redesigning cities in 3D. One of the major sponsors of this very show, which is Entry, which is an entire other conversation that'll be rolling up shortly, is one of those companies. So to hear that TRREB is actually integrating with photogrammetry for the consumer's gain, meaning that I like a Georgian architectural home. I like a Cape Cod style cottage, and I'll be able to feed an image off Google, because Google has had this technology forever. If I were to put a picture of myself and say, find pictures like this, it's going to come up with 1,000 lookalikes of Simeon.
Yeah, it's got reverse lookup too.
That's true.
You got it. So to bring this into the home search technology, it's going to make, so the efficiencies alone is what this is all about. Technology is not supposed to be cumbersome. It's supposed to make our lives easier. So when I interview and I intake my client and I say, you are looking for a blue, gray, white cottage, something in that in that range. You need to be this far from the water, all the things. It's going to give me ranges from the Kawarthas to the Muskokas to Lake Huron with lookalike cottages in different price ranges, or within price ranges, not lookalikes,
100%.
or whatever it is. That's what it's about. This is moving forward. This is the stuff that I see that gets me so excited when I hear that my board, the one that I pay my dues to, is working hard in the background to get me progress, to get me better, faster, stronger.
Yeah.
John, what else do you see developing with this? Where is the NFT tie-in? Non-fungible tokens is what we're talking about. The blockchain technology. Why don't you give us the best short answer on what blockchain technology is and can do, and the same for NFTs?
Did you say the best short answer? I'm not
The
sure,
best
but
short
let me
I
try.
know, I know.
So blockchain is, let's call it a secure database environment that will allow us to maintain it and reduce risk, like almost to zero, to ensure that anybody who has access to this information is very well credentialed and tracked. Everybody's going to have a digital sovereign identity, so that when you come in now, you're just using what we have. No, the world's going to change, because you're going to use this. Money will be transferred very securely. People will be able to really access the data if they need it during the course of a transaction that will have a tremendous amount of communication around it. But more importantly, this is where you create that single source of truth. Mm-hmm. This is what we're doing. That transaction block will be taken, be so secure that it'll be very difficult for anybody to do things like mortgage fraud or wire fraud. Transaction between the mortgage broker, lawyers, all these things will happen within that world through the token system and through smart contracts. This will create a very simple way to take the contract from the transaction from contract to conveyance digitally. This is what we hope to see, and we know that it's available right now. We're in the process of building that, so it flows right through the system, and people will be able to know that their agreement will be in the best secure, safe, fast, and communicative environment.
I'm not going to lie. That was the best short answer I've ever heard in my life. That was the best short answer I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah, I think, yeah, you hit all the main features, right? There's like, for instance, if you look at how we can bounce checks, right? Like that's absolutely not possible on the blockchain. It verifies, is the money there before the transaction ever goes through. And in the same way, yeah, your identity can't be fudged. You can't have multiple entries of the same information. So yeah, it's just 100% secure. And the only thing you didn't mention would be that it's decentralized, right? Like no one can hack it.
It won't be decentralized. It's going to be a private blockchain, so nobody can hack it. Yes. It won't be a public because if it's public, anybody can create an ID. In a private environment, I have to allow you to come in. So there's a difference. And we're looking at, and that's a tweak, but it's really real. There's the most secure. When you hear about blockchains being hacked, it's only because it's some private public person who just pretends to be someone.
Totally.
Right. So another interesting thing here about this environment, which will be, is that we're not going to be the ones that do this. You'll still have choice. You'll work with certain organizations that will be the ones that take the contract from the transaction from contract to conveyance. Those people will have another huge set of security measures that they'll have to take care of, because they're the ones doing it. They'll be the ones connected to the banks. But I'll tell you something that also will probably change, and that will be things like, you always have to try to verify income in rentals, right?
Yep.
Well, that's going to be a thing of the past.
Nice.
It's going to create transparency like you've never.
And that's because the rent is going to be tied to the property, which has a unique ID, and you can see everything that went through this property.
Not just the property, but the individual too.
Nuts. I love it.
It's you know all these fake letters we hear about, and all the anecdotal stories about people getting sued, and who gets sued? The realtor gets sued, right? And that's just wrong, because that's the part. My job is to protect and make it more efficient for our members, plain and simple. Create the tools and the strength for our members to be the people who are in charge, in control, and not at risk. Not just the consumer risk quotient drops, but that for the member has to drop too.
I just thought of something and I'm really excited by it. So what you just said is that you'll see the rental income verification. And as a mortgage broker, something, and of course what realtors deal with a lot too, is appraisals, right? So what happens with appraisals is they're currently still way too subjective. You've definitely heard of the CBC doing exposés on racist appraisal practices, you know, same house, different owner, different valuation, Kel Surprise. So do you think that this could actually start to bring some objectivity to the appraisal process and include those things as that as well?
Well, as you know, technology can do things like this through algorithms, AVMs. So we're looking at AVMs to right now, our members are paying a significant amount of money for AVMs that are not very accurate. So if you add TRREB data into the mix to provide that AVM, you're going to get far more accurate information.
100%.
So we would help appraisers be better as well, but that's not, we're not going to let, you know, they can access the system now as appraisers. They have limited access. We're not going to give them full access, but what we will do is provide them the opportunity to be more accurate. And I think that needs to be done. There's another component when we talk about not just AVMs, but square footage. So the way it works, we have to have ranges because MPAC says we can't put clear footage. I'm trying desperately to solve that. Bottom line, and I've got solutions coming to me right now.
What is the hesitation, John? Why is there a hesitation to do so?
On MPAC's part?
Yes.
Because they sell you square footage, right? And you can't really use it. You can only use it. You can only, I guess, show your client because you can't put it on the system because there has to be a range, right? So that way, if it's on there, then it stays on there, and they don't. In my opinion, it's because they sell square footage.
That's
and
just,
you know,
yeah,
that's right.
A natural born, an NBC natural born conflict.
Well, sure. It's always about that, right?
The bottom line, you can't have it. Yeah, that's it.
So we're going to solve that, and we're going to say, how can you do your job as a realtor if someone says to you, what is the cost per square foot?
Right.
Well, it's between 1,000 and 1,500 square feet. So I don't know. Here's the range, right? So how professional does that make us look?
Could you take that to the competition bureau, like into the fact where it's like, hey,
they might
stop in progress here because that hurts their business model, but this system impacts millions of people and they need to know it.
Laura, I think there could be some regulatory issues around that. I'm not sure. Contractual, I don't know. And frankly, I don't care. We're going to have to look at a way to solve this, bottom line. It's just not right. Our members are professionals. They should have the tools at their disposal. Actually,
this brings me to my next question. And you just touched on a little bit of it, but how have you seen pushback on some of these ideas too? Like, where are you seeing the most resistance to this change?
No, really not to the change, but I mean to the idea, but more to change. People don't like change, period, right? Imagine, you know, all the complaints that I've heard about Stratus over the years, all of a sudden Stratus is the best system on earth because they have to learn something new, right? And, you know, it's funny.
Typical. Yeah.
It's the devil, you know, always, right?
Well, and here's the cool part though. My American counterparts are following this pretty closely. And in fact, people are embracing it. And some of the concepts in the RFP, I've spoken in the last, even during the pandemic and before, I'm going to say 20 times in the United States. I don't get to speak much in Canada for some reason, but in the United States, I speak quite a bit on these particular issues at NAR, Inman many times. CMLS, other smaller groups, but it's fascinating. They're much slower, but they're embracing it. You know, the California Association of Realtors now is a venture capital company. So, no, a CRMLS, so the California Regional MLS, they have about 110,000 users. We saw 4 MLSs in the United States buy Remine, the front end, for significant dollars, you know, purportedly $50 million plus. We're not quite going down that road, but the vision is the same, or the concepts are the same. They're taking what we're doing and saying, okay, we want to do it too, but we're going to do it like this. And then, our idea moving forward is to just use the technology, fund it, and make sure that our members have the best possible tools at their disposal and be leaders. We're thought leaders, no doubt. But in this board of directors that I'm working with, and over the last few years, have been very excited about it, and they see it too. And that's an important thing, to have the support of the board. When they see it, it's not a vision anymore. It's a reality.
And it becomes a work plan and a strategy.
That's right.
And that's exactly, again, in my opinion, what we need to see in our industry and in our space is the likes of yourself, John, and every single person that's involved. I have worked with incredible men and women out of the Toronto Regional Real Estate Board, out of AREA at this point, on so many different verticals and so many different initiatives. And I think there is big change coming to this industry. I am so grateful that AREA moved its learning into a college set program. I actually want to see that evolve even further. Like, it needs to, in my opinion, evolve into a real college course. Like, I mean, a real college course, like with semesters, with the whole thing. This should be real estate in 2022 and beyond has to be a career chosen.
Yes.
Not a fallback.
Yeah.
It's not, I failed at this, let me give my hand at sales. We're talking about the average transaction at this point, well over $1 million, as if any industry on this planet has the barrier of entry so low to be touching millions of dollars per transaction.
Except for mortgages, which is 2 days.
Which is, again, this is the problem. A mortgage broker, which, Laura, you are the chief operating officer of Canada's most highly recognized by the industry brokerage. You're 4 or 5 time consecutive broker of the year. The reason for that is not, I'm not doing this to impress anyone, but to impress upon everyone that there are specific characteristics that go into work ethic, that go into technology. Your CEO, Laura, which is Sean Allen, is heavily involved in future-facing technology, using blockchain, smart contract, NFTs to move the mortgage industry from the dinosaur age into the future. Mortgage fraud should never be a thing, ever, under any circumstance. Money laundering galore. I was interviewed a couple of weeks ago on Sirius XM about what is happening with mortgage fraud in Canada, with laundering money from all over the world right here, because we've left our back doors wide open. Well, how can John stand in front of a crowd down at the National Association of Realtors in the States, talk about our amazing systems, if our back ends are loosey-goosey and there's millions pouring into our board from all over the place? That's illegal money. So all these things can be addressed by these initiatives. Yeah. So I kind of, that's where I'm at with it. I don't want to go past too much past the half-hour mark. I'm done with my questions. John, I enjoyed this interview thoroughly. Laura, do you have anything else to go over?
When's it going to be ready?
When's the launch?
Well, that's a great question. Thanks. Well, we hope to really socialize everything with Realm, which is I ask everybody to at least go take the courses, get the preliminary overview. The transition will definitely begin, and hopefully by the end of the year. Most people will be using it. If they're not, then there's going to be a hard stop. And I think the exciting part of what I see here on all of it is that we're moving into a new era. I don't disagree with you at all, Simeon. We have to do something. With the blockchain environment, it'll be a lot more difficult to mess with things.
That's right.
And I think that, just with the concept of having a much more secure, a much more transparent way to do business will definitely help us overall. I think if we can remove the risk and if we can create efficiencies for members and consumers alike, we've accomplished a lot in a very short period of time. So hopefully we'll have everything in place and ready to go by the end of the year. Definitely Realm is on its way. We're very close. We just have to get the back end in place right now, which was the new ad edit. So we're going through UAT right now, or user acceptance testing, and we have to do some other follow-up. There's more work to do, tons of it. And we want to ensure that this is cutting edge and leading.
Yeah.
We want to be leading, and I believe we are.
That's amazing. Actually, I have one last question. Do you think you'll get some land transfer database sort of cooperation in there as well, with regards
in terms
to
of with regards
land transfer title?
Well, that's with
database?
TerraNet's our partner, yeah. So we hope to have some of that information. And there's so much more I want to tell you. We are working with other organizations to streamline the assignment aspect and also rentals. We believe rentals is going to be a huge part of the future, has to be. So we're gearing up for all of this. As you know, we're multi-layered. We work really hard. I try to anticipate everything. And we want to make sure that we're going to lead in those areas too, to make sure our members are fully served in all aspects. So it's an exciting time.
You know what, guys?
Yeah.
Sorry, Laura. John, if there is so much to share, then honestly, I'm going to try to work with your staff, and we'll reach out maybe to have you pop by once a quarter, if that your schedule allows that kind of attendance here. But today's conversation is extremely valuable to me. I learned so much. I now know where my board stands, and I know as a fact that our audience, our brothers and sisters out there, are going to value this conversation a whole lot. So if there is a lot more to this, I would plead and ask to have you on as much as possible as your schedule allows. I know you have a tall order every day to battle, but if you can be here to give us these updates, because this is going straight to the street. So our people, like the people you're speaking to right now, we're the business. We're doing it. So everything that you can give us a heads up on how to make our lives easier, better, and ultimately a better experience to the consumer, that's what this is all about.
Well, thank you. And if you give me enough lead time, I can do it at your leisure. So, my schedules get tight, but I'll make the effort. I think this is important. If I can, I'll leave you with one thought. This is probably the most exciting time and the most critical time, and a little bit frightening time, with all the things that are going on around us. We as an industry, we as professionals, because they're separate concepts, have to pay attention to what's going on around us and be reactive and be responsive. And I think that that's our goal. Our goal that we're trying to accomplish right now is not just keeping the realtor as part of this whole concept of real estate. We're talking about having them lead and be the only go-to source, because professionals are the people that are members of TRREB. And that's what we want to maintain and communicate and arm you with what you need to get it done.
Amazing. And you've certainly provided these tools for them to, extend their professional expertise and give the consumers what they deserve, which is outstanding service. Thank you so much, John.
John, thank you so much for coming on, pal. We appreciate it.
Really appreciate it so much. Thank you so much.